call this meeting to order.
brought
Beth, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Bodie?
Here.
Mrs. Gebhardt?
Here.
Mr. Gousset?
Here.
Mrs. Matney?
Here.
And Ms. Wassman?
Before I say here, I would like to wish Andy a belated birthday. I would like to wish Beth a soon-to-be birthday. So if you stay till the end, I've got cake. Just throwing it out there. And I would also like to congratulate Emily Gebhardt and Kevin Gousset on a victorious day yesterday, and I look forward to serving with you two for 2 years here. Oh, and happy birthday to Molly also, who just had a birthday.
That was me.
Okay, now for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Molly.
I got real aggressive.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Beth, please call the roll.
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassman?
Aye. Okay, recognition of academic achievement. Do we have?
So unfortunately, Mr. Belk, our high school principal, had a family emergency, and therefore, as a result of that, wasn't able to be here tonight. And that is the reason that we postponed the scheduled presentation for this evening. All plans are to do that next month. He was truly, he was almost going to come back here against better judgment, in my opinion. So thank you all for being supportive of and flexible of our moving that a month later. I will say I've had an opportunity to preview their presentation twice and give feedback, and I share that only to say I know they've been working on it. So thank you for that.
Recognition of guests and hearing of the public. Do we have anyone who'd like to speak? Please state your name and address.
Rowan Mueller, 1227 Lincoln Road.
Sophia Zaba Ramsey, 1339 Wyandotte Road. Okay. Good evening. My name is Sophia Zaba Ramsey.
And I'm Rowan Mueller, and we are both student leaders of the Bobcat Anti-Racism Collective. We are grateful to be in a school that offers clubs like BARC, and we want to share our gratitude for the school's continued support of honesty and education.
BARC is a group of student leaders that actively try to combat racism and raise awareness of past or ongoing issues concerning race. We have hosted movie nights, general meetings, and other gatherings that have provided resources to combat bills in our legislature and more. Thank you again for your continued support in ensuring that we have a safe and inclusive environment for learning. Specifically, we welcomed a speaker of the BARC Speaker Series in the fall, Dr. Rochelle Brackney. We are grateful that our school has allowed her to speak here, and many of the students voiced to us they learned a lot from both her interview and group session. Being able to hear from her was eye-opening and informative, and we are lucky to be in a school that allows us to hear stories like hers.
There are House bills being proposed across the country, including in Ohio, to curtail honesty in education and the vital discussions of divisive concepts. This recently has been coupled with the dangerous epidemic of book banning. As BARC members, along with many other students, we believe it is valuable to learn about the past in order to acknowledge our previous mistakes and prevent them from repeating. Ignoring issues such as racism does not make it go away.
Given the current climate of dishonesty, ignorance, and ambiguity, and other issues in the United States, we are especially glad that our school does its best to promote a holistic curriculum characterized by diverse representation and valuable discussions, even about hard things at times, which helps us grow as critical thinkers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, as always, thanks for coming and for having passion on the subject. We appreciate it.
Did you enjoy the speaker series? Was it last? It was
Just
October.
recently.
Yes, it was last weekend.
What was your biggest takeaway from the things that the speaker had to say?
Well, she was a former police officer for I think 38 years, and it was very interesting to hear her side of the story on her career path. It was very interesting.
Yeah, she had a lot of interesting lessons that as Rowan said here, because she was both on the police side and as a person of color, she's had experiences with police. So it was really interesting to hear that from her, and she shared a lot of stories that were kind of relatable or funny and that were humanizing to her, to the students. So she connected really well with the audience, and that was really cool.
Good. Glad you got a lot from the speaker.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
All right, the building and department report, I'm sorry, is there anyone else who would like to speak, I should say? The building and department reports are attached. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
I want to begin by just spotlighting something that we've been working on for many months, and that is a district-wide day of service to be held on Monday, November 27th. And there are enumerated bullets around which and what each grade level building is doing that I'm not going to read to you, but it will be an exciting day, under the theme or auspices of service above self and paying it forward. I wanted to spotlight that our administrators are soon participating in the Ohio School Safety Center workshop on after-school event emergency preparedness. One of the things that I personally have been somewhat heavily involved in is an event that is scheduled for this coming Monday. It is open to anyone that would like to attend, and that is at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium. It's sponsored in collaboration with The Ohio State University and Harry Miller, a former member of the Ohio State football team who advocates for mental health awareness in sports. This particular passion of mine in an area that I think oftentimes is pushed under the covers, in particular for boys and in particular for boys in sports. I've had an opportunity to hear Harry speak before, and he delivers what I think is a really important message for everyone, really. So I'm very excited about it. I think it's important. It'll be an important message, most importantly for our students. Also wanted to just highlight that both our newsletter and our amazing financial prospectus dropped in all mailboxes in Grandview. And so those are both really excellent pieces of information, and densely compacted and very informative. So wanted to share that as well. And that's all that I have.
Any questions or comments? Okay, moving on to the construction, the core team committee report. We did not have a meeting this time, but I know we did talk a little bit about how the lawn had been, out front had recently been aerated and overseeded, so hopefully we'll see that filling in before we head to spring. Hopefully the kids will be able to get out and run on it this spring. Is there anything else you can think of to?
The swing set that we had put in had a national recall of the brackets that held the swing to the horizontal bar, and those were replaced, that bracket, and they're back up, but they were down for, I want to say, maybe 2 weeks or so. What we recently got a bid for the front of Larson Middle School, a landscape package that would look aesthetically very similar to what the high school looks like in terms of, I don't know if you, again, if you maybe haven't, it's not on your radar, you might not notice it, but it looks, in my judgment, it needs some love. And why not make it look identical or similar from a landscaping standpoint as what the high school does, which would be a dramatic improvement from what it looks like now. And then the other one that we continue to pursue is get quotes for like an industrial shade mechanism, both over here in front of Larson for recess and playground, as well as over here on the outdoor learning center. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see, I think Jim may have forwarded you something this morning, Jim Buffer. If not, I'll forward it to you tomorrow, but there's some pictorial representations of these industrial shade, and they're pretty amazing. I mean, they look pretty amazing, and I think there's a need for that. So the final thing I would say is we did our 12-month or 11-month, 12-month walkthrough of these buildings. And, there's a few still what I would describe as small punch items. But overall, we, I think, collectively are very pleased. And of equal importance, my sense, if not more importance, the students and staff are as well.
A couple, just briefly, while I was walking in here, I noticed the lights aren't out front. Is there a reason for that? Does anyone know?
My guess is, and that's all that is that it's, I'll send an email right now. They're on a timer, and the
Yeah,
time
I
change,
wondered.
it's, you know, what is it? It gets dark at 5:30 now.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not a sensor, it's a timer.
Yeah, so it
And-
probably needs
and-
updated. Oh,
and
they're
my-
on now. Actually, I can see it.
What time is it?
7.
So they
Yeah.
probably clicked on at 7.
Yeah,
But we need to
okay.
change that. I'm guessing I'm
I
right.
bet that's right.
I'm on that.
Playing basketball in the park.
Yeah, I saw that on the way in.
Yeah, I think that's what drew my attention to it, was there were kids playing basketball, and I was like, wow, it's dark out here to play basketball. And the other thing is sort of looking ahead, but related to the core team, is that there is a contract for, trying to do something for the walls to make it look less sterile here. So this is the first step into that process, so we can maybe get a little color.
Yeah, so they're doing, we went, the contracts with M&A, we had a meeting that actually today. They're doing a master plan of interior design to tell our story. It'd be a holistic approach that could be phased. They're not, this plan isn't to do the graphic design, actually. So for example, that wall, but rather to create all of the images and logos throughout the entire 412 campus internally that we could incrementally and over time do.
Right. Okay, any other questions? Okay, Beth, on to the treasurer's presentation.
Okay, thanks, Emily. So I have some financial highlights to share, and then I'm going to kind of switch gears and talk a little bit about the bond levy millage setting process that we go through this time each year, to touch on that. So kicking it off with some financial highlights through the end of October. Not a whole lot has changed with our revenue. We are right where we expect to be. The taxes, the homestead and rollback reimbursement, the Grandview Yard revenue are all right on target with the first half settlement. The interest for the month of October was just shy of $70,000, and we're at about $273,000 fiscal year to date, so July through October, which is great. Expenditures, we are about 1% over our fiscal year-to-date budget at this point, so keeping an eye on that as we go through the fiscal year. We do start out each fiscal year a little bit above, and then generally we get closer and closer to that target as the year goes on. Investments for our general fund, the weighted average yield in our U.S. Bank investment account is 2.89%. And the Star Ohio yield as of the end of October is 5.57. So I mentioned last month and continuing to work with our meter investment advisor to kind of strategically place that money between the two accounts. Star Ohio, when it starts to drop, it drops fast. So it's kind of a balance of locking in some investments with some longer term rates while taking advantage of that higher liquid rate right now. So the PI fund, our unencumbered balance, about $267,000. The upcoming projects we've talked about, so nothing new there. And then finally the construction fund. We're getting almost down to the end of that construction fund. So the interest for October, $3,900. And for the project to date, $2,018,403. So that's, that's great. Again, we've been taking advantage of those interest rates as long as we could, and we're kind of at the very tail end of that balance now. So the cash balance as of the end of October, $537,000, and I have made a payment since then, so it's down a little bit lower. So we are just about done with soft costs and construction costs. I think there's one more pay app for the construction, which is the retainage, and that is pending. And then the soft costs, there's a couple things that are pending. It was a couple punch list items that were pending. So just a few pending things, and we'll be wrapping this up. And I think in the coming month, maybe 2 months. So we talked about any balance that's left over in that construction fund. We transfer to the permanent improvement fund, And I do expect to have about $200,000 left over from the project that will move into PI. I have already talked to Becky Princehorn, our bond counsel, and she's already provided me that transfer resolution. So as soon as we get those last few bills paid, we have that transfer authorization will be on, my guess, either December or January's agenda, once those things get finalized. So the overall project funds, about 58.2 million, and again, about 200,000 we expect to have left over. So, whoops. What did that just do?
I think it might be you, Angie. Somebody's iPhone.
It's me. Yeah, nothing.
Beth is just gonna have to tell us.
You try.
Let me turn this off and turn it back on,
Yeah.
this screen.
Somebody busted.
What's going on?
I just kicked it off. It'll come back in.
Okay.
Kids out here.
I need a 12-year-old to help me.
I was like, I don't even know.
I was just
There's
gonna say,
that
I was just gonna say, there's a bunch of
outside.
12-year-olds out here. I bet could have
One
something
of
to do
them.
with them.
No, it would be a TikTok if
Not-
it was one of them.
So Chris, it's saying it can't,
It should come back
Okay.
up. You might-
There you
Okay.
go.
Are you iPhone too?
so it's not giving me a place to put that code in?
Yeah. Somebody might be somewhere.
Little hackers.
No, they're all playing with the ball, so.
Okay, so I'll just
tell us
I'll just give you a quick overview. I was through all the financial highlights, just a quick overview of the bond millage setting process. So, let me get to the right screen here. So as you guys know, the bond levy that we passed in November of 2018, the millage for bond levies is a little bit different process than all of our other levies, PI levies, general fund levies. So that millage is calculated each year by the county auditor's office, and it's based on the amount that is needed for the following year to make our debt payments. So it's as simple as the math that we need to pay that principal and interest
Oh, there you are.
next year. And the county auditor takes what we have on hand, how much we need for next year, any other money we have available, and backs into the rate to generate that amount of money. So that process typically starts in early November. And just in the last few days, I did receive that certification form from the county auditor that asks for that information. By mid to late November, the county auditor will send back a calculated millage rate, and then I sign off. I consult with Baker Tilly, our financial advisor, just to make sure that they concur with that, and it matches our bond millage strategy that we had set up at the onset of that bond levy. So then once that happens, the millage takes effect in January of 2024, calendar year 24. So that's kind of the overview of how that works. And then just a quick recap specific to our November 2018 levy. It was about 7.5 was the ballot millage actually on the ballot. It represented a 5.85 mil increase. So we had one bond levy coming off at the same time that our new one was phasing in. You may remember. And the Board of Education at the time passed the resolution a month before that levy passed, designating additional funds from Grandview Yard settlement to be put towards that bond levy to help offset what we ask residents to pay and businesses to pay. So the actual increase, once that offset was taken into account, was about a 2.8 mil increase to our taxpayers for this entire project, this entire $55.25 million project. We had a lot of questions at that time when the board passed that resolution, asking us how do we know that that money is going, or how does that work? And so we were very upfront and committed to a very transparent process each year that we would share publicly. And so that's what we do each November, and I'll provide an update in December as well. So that annual certification form looks like this. I know it's a little bit small, but the one line that I want to highlight is the third number down from the top, and that is showing that we're going to use a little over $900,000 of our Grandview Yard funding in 2024 to put towards the bond principal and interest payments. So out of the total that we need, we're going to cover that $908,000 from that funding, and then the millage that we ask residents to pay will be the balance of that. So that's what the actual form looks like. I sent that to the county auditor on the 2nd, so just a few days ago. And then finally, just wanted to give you kind of a recap of what that bond millage has looked like as that old bond levy was phasing down to make the final payments, and as the new levy in the yellow was phasing in. So I think we talked about this last year, but what's really interesting is if you look at the current rate, the 3.7 mils, it's only about 1 mil higher than the bond levy millage that we had in effect when we started planning for these buildings. So, so I think overall a really great story to share, and a real success story with that whole project and the whole yard renegotiation and offset with that. So I do expect for 2024 that millage rate will go down, in particular because of the property reappraisal. So the amount of money that we're going to collect in 2024 is the same as what we knew we would collect back in 2018. Mm-hmm. So the dollar amount doesn't change for 2024, just the math changes. The value goes up, the rate goes down, still generates the same amount of money. Mm-hmm. So I do expect that to go down. December board meeting, I should have the actual millage that is certified by the county auditor by that time. So, but anyway, just wanted to give you a kind of recap over that, and like I said, I'll provide an update on that calculation next month.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When the city put their levy on the ballot last year and it passed, was that based on bond millage also?
That was a bond levy.
Okay.
Yes, that's a great question, Katie. That the city's levy that they had on in November of 2022 was a bond levy for their new municipal building.
Okay.
The millage, I don't remember right offhand what that was. I think it was in the, do you remember, Emily?
I don't remember offhand.
Wouldn't it have been small, because it was only like a $25 million
Yeah, it
project
was.
or something, right? Is that equal?
I think it was maybe in the 3-ish
Okay.
range, 3-point-something mil range. So their project was smaller. I don't think, so the one thing that would be a little bit unique about ours is that we are using some of that funding that we have to put towards that. So the millage that we're actually collecting, that 3.7 doesn't pay off a $55 million bond because we're using that Grandview Yard money. So, yeah.
All right. And then for the library levy, is that the same? Is that a bond?
So I don't think the library has a bond levy. So, so bond levies are typically for capital improvement projects. So a new facility, a renovated facility, those are typically just for financing major capital improvements. Okay. So I don't think that the library has a bond issue.
Okay.
They do have operating levies, of course, and I believe they have a permanent improvement levy too.
Okay.
So permanent improvement levy funds generated can be put towards maintaining a building that you have.
Yeah.
Whereas a bond levy is to finance something major.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is the math simple enough that like 3.7 mils for our levy plus 3 mills for the city's levy plus whatever like holistically speaking, is that how that math is done? When you look at households and you think comprehensively if whatever the future holds, what we're asking them to take on?
Yeah, so it is a pretty, now bond levies are a little bit different and a little bit more involved than the operating or PI levies. You need X dollars, per year, and it's a simple math equation to calculate that. Bond levies are a little bit different because the project size was 55 million, but 55 million is not what we generate each year. What we generate is enough to pay the principal and interest. So if interest rates are, when we issued our bonds, interest rates were much lower. So our debt service payments are lower than if we were going to issue bonds today. So how the bond is structured, and our municipal advisor works with us depending on what our needs are. We have some flexibility in how we structure a bond issue. So if you think of your own home mortgage, it's usually equal payments over the life of the loan, right? Well, bond issues can be that way, but are not necessarily that way. They can be structured differently. There are some general parameters, like the principal in any 1 year, I think can't be more than 3 times what it is in the lowest year. So there are some kind of guardrails on how that can be structured. But our bond issue was one that we were able to be pretty creative based on when we thought the Grandview Yard revenue, how that was going to come in. We were able to be creative so that what we needed each year kind of synced up with how much we were getting in from Grandview Yard, and that money increases over time. So we were able to structure that to make that make that fit really well, to keep the millage basically flat. So not every bond issue is structured consistently, and so the millage calculation is a little bit trickier on bond. So that's why we work with a municipal advisor that can help us predict what interest rates are and kind of run those numbers for us.
Gotcha.
So it's not, I mean, it's definitely very, very doable. A little bit, not quite as simple though as a operating or a PI levy.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good questions.
How many years is our issue? Was it 30?
It was, so the 2018 bond issue was for 38 years.
38.
Yeah.
And what year did you actually issue the debt?
We issued the
2019?
bonds in June of 2019.
Okay.
So we've already paid off, I think I had it in our weekly update. I think we've already paid off about 6 million of the 55 million. So, interesting, the first full year occupying the buildings, we've already paid off about $6-ish million, yeah. So.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, is there a finance committee report?
We did not meet.
There is not. The finance committee did not meet this month, in particular because we had the board work session. We had the updated numbers to discuss as a group, and so we did not have a separate finance committee meeting.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so now we have vote on under business and finance C 1 through it looks like just 1 through 8.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Come on, Bodie.
Second.
There you go.
Any discussion? As we mentioned earlier, that MA master plan for interior design is there. Okay, Beth, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gusset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassmuth?
Aye.
Okay, under personnel, we have 1 through 7. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
That was right. Not you, Bodie.
Any discussion?
I have a question. We seem to approve and accept
the hiring and resignation of a lot of people in Kids Club. Is that typical?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and, you know, it's, odd hours.
Yeah.
You know, we have increased the pay,
Okay.
multiple times over the last 2 years. And also oftentimes it's like you know, a college worker who needs to work for 3 months.
Yeah.
And they do that until they find something more permanent.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It's pretty
That's
normal.
Different question. So there, you know, I noted all the job descriptions.
Yeah.
And just was hoping you could give a little background and the
Yes.
process there that
You
was,
bet.
I'm sure,
So,
went through.
this is one of the things that Christina Brannon, our more recent HR coordinator, has been working on. And anytime we update a job description, we have to run it through our win-win non-teacher union, which most of these are. And it's just, it's multifaceted, I would say. And so what do I mean by that? Well, I think the job descriptions in most cases had not been updated in a long, long time. So they're really no longer reflective of what and how the job looks like today. So we did that. You know, things like ditto copying, you know, was in there. You know, like just really,
Purple
like
dittos.
really outdated kind of language. So we updated and cleaned that all up, and also modified it in collaboration with the folks that are doing those respective jobs so that it's more accurate. Additionally, there were some things that we learned in some of the questions that unions had of administration of union, that cleaned up some of the job descriptions around customer service, collaborating with your colleagues, and what those kinds of things mean. And so embedded that. We also added a signature to the job description. So those are examples of, you know, it wasn't just one thing. It was a kind of a holistic update of all of those job descriptions. And again, it was done in collaboration with our union.
And so mostly to get it in line with what exists, it wasn't like, hey, we're gonna change people's jobs.
No, correct,
And this was with GHESSA.
correct.
And to Mr. Bodie's point, more language cleanup. These are the things that they actually do, but now the description matches it.
Yes, yes, it was that, but it was also, we added a signature,
Yeah.
which we require. We also added some additional components universally around, interaction with your colleagues, being a team player, collaboration, engaging with customers, students, community members politely, those kinds of things.
If this comes up again in the future, I mean, it was in the job description, it was in this, could we as a board get a heads up, hey, we are going into this, because to me, this feels a little bit closer to negotiations. I don't think it is, but just like a heads up, like, hey, this is going on.
Yeah, so in our CBA with our non-teaching, it is required that through the win-win, only can we update job descriptions. So that has happened in advance of bringing it to the board, in other words.
Yeah, the only thing, you get what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
And is this it, or is this like the first half?
This is
and
it.
we're gonna-
This is essentially, it's not a CBA, it's not a tentative agreement, but everybody's happy.
Yeah, I think, well, everybody's happy. That's a high bar.
Everybody has come to an agreement.
100% happiness these days, I don't.
Andy, you and I don't have that, but everyone is.
But yeah, I mean, we followed the process, and I think that it was done very collaboratively. And my sense is that the vast majority are very supportive of this change.
And GHESSA has signed off.
Yes.
That's what, I
Yes,
guess
they
that's,
have.
I guess that's how I wanted
Yeah.
to say that, not
Yep.
happy.
Not 100% happy.
No one,
Everyone has signed
again,
off. Yeah,
Yeah.
according to Mr. Culp, not everyone's happy.
probably not.
It's true.
This is
It's a
true.
Wednesday night. Thank you, Andy.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, hearing none, Beth, please call the roll.
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
And Ms. Wassman?
Aye.
Is there a policy committee report?
Yeah, we met and we have a whole bunch of
Yeah.
first readings that are on the docket.
Indeed.
Do you have a new leader in the policy?
Matt Wyan is now writing up the policies and
He did a
getting them
great job.
vetted. He did a great job.
Good.
Yeah, I've got a stack of policy here if there are any
Yeah.
questions.
Can you provide us a Cliff Notes, Spark Notes, internet version of, is this language clarity, is it?
Almost entirely.
Okay,
Yeah, there are several where there are notes that are included, that are just new footnotes. The one issue that Mr. Wyan emailed you about that we wanted to give people a heads up on was trying to look at which letters they are. It's mostly about making statements or wearing clothing surrounding political campaigns, political activities, staff participation in political activity. It's GBG.
letter L,
Yes.
and that is saying yay, nay,
Essentially, that you are, we don't support individuals wearing clothing that advocate for particular candidates.
don't support it, but doesn't mean not allowed.
No, it would mean not allowed.
That's my
Yeah,
clarification, I'm like,
It
cause
is.
I can make a policy that says you should dress in business casual, doesn't mean you have to. That's what, I was asking for clarification.
Yeah, it's not,
Correct.
it's
Okay.
not allowed.
No, it's not allowed.
With this, staff participating in political activity, would that mean in the school grounds,
Correct.
but in their,
During the school day.
During
during
their
the school day,
contracted
during
day.
the contract day?
Correct.
But if they were allowed, but if they wanted, they could put a political sign in their yard.
Yes.
Correct.
Just clarifying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there is nothing about like a bumper sticker on your car or a
Right.
magnet.
That comes up. That oddly enough has come
Yeah.
up before,
Right, that's not part of this.
not me. And then, so it would be, was there anything about it with social media?
No,
Okay.
not in this policy.
And Kevin, my sense was, although it's been 2 weeks, I think, since we met, the delta, the difference between our existing policy and this one was really, really small.
Okay.
But I think uniquely, as I recall, again, so I'm looking at both of you to make sure, that almost all of these are required changes.
That one is required.
This one is also,
Is required.
You said all of these are required?
most all,
Most.
I'll say 99%.
But this policy in particular.
But I thought we, the committee, felt like this one was worth you all, like, emphasizing and just doing a quick read.
Yeah.
With that regard, just trying to understand the policy, less so the change exactly, but just thinking about how maybe I don't even understand the policy right now. Is it specific to, saying I support this specific candidate, or I do or do not support this issue, like issue 1 or issue 2, as opposed to saying, because it's pretty broad and ambiguous to say, don't take a political stance, like just in general, because what I consider a political stance may not be what somebody else's definition of that is. This is talking specifically about like candidates or issues that are on a ballot. Or,
And I think platforms. I think wearing a I voted sticker
yeah.
would not qualify.
Or if you had like a shirt that said like recycle. I'm just gonna
Right.
use something really basic.
But-
Right.
Like something like recycle. Like to me, recycling shouldn't be political, but there might be somebody out there who'd be like, that's a political statement,
Yeah.
Not, we are sensible with this. It's talking about like things you're voting on specifically.
Correct.
But if I were to wear a shirt that says we will not go back,
I bet you could, I think that's a gray area that you would.
that's
need
what I'm
to be-
asking, is there gray?
I think the
Well,
general rule is that, use your best judgment.
Does it pass the sniff test?
Does it pass the sniff
But
test?
my judgment might be different than your judgment.
Well, it would be, how would you react to send us 50 years back? Like, send us 50 years back. Like, you know what I mean? If you're like, don't send us 50 years back, and then somebody else yes, you know what I mean? I'm splitting hairs, but like,
I get it, you're playing devil's advocate, I mean.
I'm playing devil's advocate, like,
No, I
you wouldn't
was-
have either shirt.
Yeah, because this has come up with concerns from community members about it, and there's also within the professional code of conduct for educators, very specific language around, you can't speak very specific language around freedom of speech, political activism, things like that for educators specifically. So I'm trying to cut the difference between what does the professional code of conduct for educators say versus this policy, like kind of what's the difference in a public manner? Like, you know what I mean? Because I have my own.
Well, it would be my assessment that this policy
Uh-huh.
is very reflective of what the vast majority of our staff would say we do and they do.
I would agree with
Yeah,
that.
that it's not
I-
really
Like
changed.
99%.
Yeah, there has been community feedback that says
Oh, yeah,
this is not
Sure,
what
right.
this, so here's me, we're a public thing, let's talk about it.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And I think the intent is, why we're pointing this out, and I'm glad we did, is I think it's a first read. It's worth
Absolutely.
reading and bringing, in advance of the next board meeting, if there's concerns or questions, emailing the policy committee. My sense is it's more speaks to, for example, a teacher wearing, a Joe Biden shirt or a Donald Trump shirt.
Right.
All day for, once a week for the next year. That would not be something that would be allowable. And I think that we would all, well, maybe we wouldn't all agree, maybe not everybody would agree with that even, but that's what the policy's getting at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
and it's understanding the nuance, but it's also too, is it a Joe Biden shirt, is it an Emily Gippert shirt, is it a Molly Wasmith shirt? Like,
Yeah, that
there's-
would also be
there's all-
inclusive of
Right,
that.
any of
You
those
could
would
not do that either.
Eric
Right,
Bodie,
not even
I'm
like
sorry,
local
Eric Bodie
or-
shirt.
Yeah, no,
my
no,
shirt.
you
I
could
still have
not.
my shirt
Right.
too, we all still have our shirts.
Even if there's only
I don't have any
one
shirts.
mayor running
Maybe
for the
colors.
position, you still can't wear that shirt.
Right.
Correct, and it's just language with that. Before we meet next, could there be clarification from the policy committee with the Ohio Professional Code of Educators versus this, if there's any type of conflict, overlap, anything, just for the whole board to discuss? 'Cause
And can you educate me, the professional code for educators, so that is something, is that something that was like done through like the administrative code by ODE? Is it something you guys pledge to, like the same way a doctor takes a Hippocratic oath kind of thing? or-
it's not anything that we pledge to, it is, I believe it is in the ORC, but we are held accountable to it. So there's, various things, proper handling of finances, social media, tobacco, alcohol use, freedom of speech, professional code of conduct for educators. I have it magnetically on my board at school, but there's about 10 things, and it's these. For example, I couldn't get on social media and be like, hey, school district that I work for, I think you stink. That's a disciplinary offense, because it goes against speaking disparagingly against your school district.
I
which
mean,
is
if you
in a-
can send a copy of the conduct,
Yeah.
I'm happy to compare.
No, I was asking you. Okay.
Well, I'm curious myself, I mean, if it's in the ORC or the OAC, I'd like
I
to
don't
read it,
know
just
if
out of
it's-
curiosity.
I don't know if it's in the administrative, I think it is in the
It
administrative.
doesn't sound like something that would be ORC, it sounds like it'd be administrative code.
It's
but-
one of the two, and right now I'm blanking on them. I'm like, it has it on there.
Yeah,
I have the abbreviated version. What I was asking was for the policy committee to pull it for the board.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking too.
You want us to pull the conduct?
I'll see if I can find what
Yeah.
she's talking about. I'm not, we can maybe talk after this and get clarity on
Yeah,
where. The only other thing I would say relative, coming at this from a little different angle, and I've sent the board multiple updates specific to schools and school levies and what is allowable and what is not allowable. And that what is not allowable in the last year has significantly changed, significantly. Simplistically stated, treasurers and superintendents can educate and inform. They can educate and inform. They cannot influence or persuade. And you are also, we are no where in previous years, the leash that you had, and board members, was a far greater in terms of being more active in levies. You know, in the evenings, you could say, vote for. That is no longer the case. And this policy, while a little bit different, is commensurate with those major and significant changes.
Are you saying for board members too?
Board members have more latitude, significantly more. But there also are increased it's not as free reign, even for board members. But compared to Beth and I, you would have a lot more.
So the kind of what it gets down to for superintendent and treasurer is that they consider you kind of on the clock 24/7, where your duties are outside a normal workday. And so we would not, which this is completely different than the 2018 bond levy, we would not be allowed to go to levy committee meetings to plan for literature drops, and we would not be able to be involved in any of that. Because they kind of view us as being on the clock all the time, like I said. Board members, they view you guys you have a little more latitude than we do, because you're on the clock technically only when you're at board meetings. But there are still some stricter interpretations in that, and this is guidance that was just issued by the state auditor's office. So it is a very, very different environment than what we operated in. I mean, we were at every levy committee meeting on our lunch breaks, and we were at, things in the evening and lit drops on Sunday and all those kinds of things, and we would not be allowed to do any of that this time.
And many of those rules also apply to teachers. Now, it's not a 24/7, but it is from, say, 8 to, your contract day. So, and there, my sense is the oversight is far greater as well. I mean, you always want to do it right, no matter what,
Yeah,
but.
yeah.
Well, but wasn't there a case in Ohio relatively recently where
Yes.
school board members were sued, and maybe a superintendent
I
also,
think
treasurer?
criminal charges were even
Yeah.
brought against a
sounds
school
fun.
district and the general rule is that you can't use public funds to influence a campaign or to promote a campaign. And so the state auditor's office just recently has taken a much, much stricter interpretation of that rule.
I really like this idea, it resonates with me, and it might with some of you, this idea of educate and inform versus persuade and
Yeah.
influence. You
Yeah,
know,
but that can be kind of gray sometimes.
it
It's
can,
like-
but as long as you're educating and informing, you know, and you live there and not trying to influence and persuade.
Right. And I know that you guys have sent several, documents that sort of go over these changes. And I admit, I have not taken a whole lot of time to look into it. My thought was like, well, next time we're like getting close to doing a levy, I was like, then I will really read up and see what the rules are. But I know that we've gotten a number of,
What dramatically changes what, as Beth said, historically in Ohio, treasurers and superintendents'
Yeah.
role in campaigns and in levies, and puts a lot more emphasis, quite candidly, not that there wasn't before, on the levy chairs.
right,
And I would say.
But I also think, not just the levy chairs, what is needed, and it's always needed, but even more so, is levy chairs and then like strong subcommittee levy chairs, because the lift is heavy.
And there's a lot of districts across the state
I know you know.
where there's probably not even an active levy committee historically, it's been the treasurer and the superintendent who
Yeah.
have done,
Sure.
in some of the smaller, especially probably more rural districts. It's been those two, in a lot of cases, without a whole lot of extra help. So it really changes the playing field, across the state for school districts.
Related but different, circling back, the license code of professional conducts for Ohio educators is an 18-page document in everybody's email.
Oh,
thank you.
nice.
It was, thank ODE, because they made a nice little PDF, and there's just this little arrow right here that says send. But it is, what is it? There's 9 big things, and it goes into the violation and the discipline. From there, I think you could pull up like professional relationships with students, professional behaviors where I think you're gonna find it, accurate reporting, criminal acts, confidentiality, tobacco, drugs, all the things. But it's in there, so I asked you to do something and I did it.
Cool.
Sounds like me.
Could I, switch gears a little bit, but on the same topic here? So there are two other ones I just had quick question about. So one is this, F, board member conflict of interest. Do you remember what it is that is changing?
Is that,
Which one,
I wonder
Eric?
if that's,
Board member conflict of interest,
F,
BBFA.
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 Thought that might pertain to me.
I don't, it sounds like something I watched on another board meeting, cause there's someone that's going under in ethics,
Well, he's got it right there.
yeah.
It looks like they're just removing, mostly they're removing language.
So it looks like cleanup more than anything.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything in particular that's mentionable. This was not one that we had much discussion about. I think it's mostly cleanup of language.
But it, all of the policy is attached in our board packet.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So
then-
we could review it in the next month also.
Correct. It's on the board docs documents.
Thank you.
Under Ready for the Board, if you click on there.
And the other one is, just interested in the home instruction.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about
What's
that too.
changing?
I think
there?
that was-
That
Changing to
is
home
entirely
education.
language change. It's moving from homeschooling to home instruction.
Oh.
It's like a one-word switch.
It switches to like home education or something like that
Correct.
instead of.
Normally, typically, home instruction is when you have a teacher working with a student. They're still enrolled in the student.
Right,
They're still,
right.
the student is
It's not like
still,
homeschooling.
it's not homeschooling.
Okay.
So how we describe it in
So-
my district is homebound instruction.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like you'll have anything from a
Someone from a
student
sickness that they're,
intern
yeah.
having a baby, breaking an ankle, whatever.
Gotcha.
And
So,
so
I'm sorry.
that is, it's not homeschooling, it's home
Okay,
instruction,
that's
correct?
helpful.
They
I'm asking the
changed the
policy.
language from homeschooling to home instruction.
But literally, I think it was that schooling
One
changed to
word.
instruction and that's it.
That's it.
Okay, but it is not with students that have been unenrolled.
And that's probably why there's a language change to make
Okay.
it clearer.
Cause that's, that could just be the district I work in, we call it homebound instruction.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. And that's, the past two districts I've worked in have called it homebound instruction.
That's all I had.
I'm coming back for the policy committee.
Okay, well,
Doing
that's
it.
just the first reading, so no vote there. We'll come back to that at our next meeting.
Did-
Um,
Did we approve, we moved and seconded on, no,
We're still on the first reading of, we were just talking about the first reading of the.
so we have not moved to vote, A or B, correct?
I don't think we need to. I don't think there's
Okay.
anything to vote on there.
Claire, I couldn't remember if we
Yeah.
voted or not.
I don't believe so.
Thank you, President.
Is there a teaching and learning committee report?
I don't think we've met.
Nope, we didn't meet.
Okay.
I think we meet Monday.
Oh.
Wait,
Here.
we have the BSA thing on Monday.
You get a
Oh,
whole
yeah,
day,
yeah, we have the Capitol Conference on Monday.
24 hours with the
Oh, yeah,
board,
we do.
Katie.
So we might have to reschedule that. We need to reschedule that,
Yeah, well,
please.
No, 15 hours, all board, all day long.
okay, we do have some volunteers to approve. Is there a motion to approve A1 under co-curricular activities and extracurricular activities?
Before we do that, quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the same one as last month?
No,
Are we, because I feel like I saw.
I was on last month's, because I had to, remember we had to do that thing where like I
Yeah,
had
okay,
to.
thank you.
Removed
Yeah.
yourself.
Because I thought I saw Palmachano on there twice.
Oh, maybe it was
It
her
was
husband last time.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I so moved.
Second.
Okay, Beth, please call the roll.
Mr. Bodie?
Aye.
Mrs. Gephardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
Ms. Wassmuth?
Aye.
Okay, under other, that's just point out, we do have the Capitol Conference next week. If anyone's planning on going, Katie will be there, I'll be there. We go into the Alliance Luncheon on Monday.
Yes.
Got Andrew Brenner speaking, I don't know.
So for, just real quick, if I may, on Monday, there is a big-time presentation at 10:30.
Oh,
By someone
yes.
pretty important.
Just saying.
Is this,
And,
is this someone in the room?
Someone pretty special.
but that is me being silly. But me being serious, the Alliance lunch starts at 11:30.
Okay.
And if you recall, for those that have participated in the past, you need to get there early because it's first come, first seat. And Angie and Beth have volunteered to get there early and skip this awesome presentation.
What?
It is happening at 10:30.
How could they do that?
How long is your presentation going?
It'll probably last 45 minutes.
What is the topic?
So I share that with you also to say, if you are going, don't feel any pressure to come to that presentation unless
to.
you'd really like to.
What are you presenting upon, Mr. Cole?
We are presenting as a collaborative panel. There are 4 superintendents, of which I'm one, and we are presenting on how you go about making challenging decisions. And why.
I was like, how
And
do
what
you-
things do you weigh? And so that's the topic. And there, Jonathan Cooper, who's in Cincinnati, John Marchhausen, who's in Dublin, myself, and then the other person has slipped my mind. But Julie Martin will be facilitating the conversation as well.
Cool.
Very nice. Yeah, I need to go back and look at all the schedule to see.
Right.
And I remember Jay said that he's gonna be there in the,
Yes, I'm gonna make sure to
vendor
go.
hall.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
with
Say hi to Mr.
Alfred.
Tadino.
Yes, okay, so that's good to look forward to. Is there any other business that we need to address that anyone has? No.
I can move for adjournment.
Okay, let's hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Look at
Beth, please
us.
call the roll.
Mr. Bodie? Mrs. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Gousset?
Aye.
Mrs. Matney?
Aye.
Ms. Wassmer?
Aye. All right, we are done for today.